Welcome to the SEVIS training for sponsor officials. This training is designed to facilitate your understanding of SEVIS in regards to the administration, maintenance, and management of the J1 program information at your organization and your exchange visitor and spouse dependent records. In this presentation, we will discuss maintaining spouse or dependent J2 records. This presentation does not replace the Exchange Visitor Program regulations found in Title 22, Part 62 of the Code of Federal Regulations. For detailed guidance on the Exchange Visitor Program, visit j1visa.state.gov. Let's first look at updating the J2 spouse dependent information. To access the spouse dependent record from the Exchange Visitor Information page, click the Spouse Dependents Yes link on the top of the page. To add more J2 records, use the Edit button in the Spouse Dependent section. To access a particular record, click the J2's SEVIS ID. The Dependent Information page displays information about the J2 spouse or dependent. It includes the menu of available actions for the J2 record, including Edit, Invalidate, No-Show, and Reprint DS 2019. Updates made to the J2 record have no effect on the J1 record. Now let's edit the J2's information. Clicking the Edit link opens the Edit Spouse Dependent page. Note that the rules for editing the spouse or dependent's biographical information are the same as those for the J1 Exchange Visitor. All fields are available for editing in initial status before the visa is issued and in active status after the J1's record is validated. Now, let's talk about different ways a J2's status can be concluded. If the spouse dependent record is in initial status and you learn that the person will not be coming to the United States, the invalidate action must be performed. Click the Invalidate link to open the Invalidate Spouse Dependent page. Enter required remarks. Clicking the Invalidate button changes the status of the J2 record to invalid. The Exchange Visitor Spouse Dependent menu page shows that the J2 record is now in invalid status, while the J1 and the other J2 record remains in initial status. When an Exchange Visitors program is validated, the status of all associated J2 records in initial status will also change to active. If you become aware that the active status J2 will be leaving the United States and will no longer accompany the J1, the End Status function must be used. Clicking the End Status link will display the Dependent End of Status page. Select the end of status reason, such as death, divorce, or other, and enter other relevant information. Clicking the End Status button will change the status of the J2 to inactive. Note also that the J2 status will automatically change to inactive when the J2 dependent child turns 21 years old. To change the status of a spouse dependent to terminated, click the Terminate link on the Dependent Information page. On the Terminate Dependent page, select one of the following termination reasons: conviction of a crime, other, or unauthorized employment. Enter the effective termination date and detailed termination remarks. Click the Terminate Dependent button. The status of the J2 will change to terminated on the effective termination date. This chart summarizes the actions available to conclude the J2's status independently from the J1. For example, if the current status of the J2 is active, but you learn that the spouse or dependent never arrived in the United States as a J2 and is not going to, you need to conclude the J2's status by changing it to invalid. You can do that by using the Invalidate action. Now let's talk about different ways the J2 status can be corrected. When the J1 is in initial or active status and the status of the J2 is invalid, and you learn that the spouse or dependent will accompany the J1, you can correct the status of the J2 to match the status of the principal. On the Dependent Information page, click the Correct SEVIS Status link. A confirmation window will open, informing you that you must maintain and provide supporting documentation for this change upon request. Click the I agree button. On the Correct SEVIS Status for Dependent page, enter relevant information in the Required Remarks field and click the Correct SEVIS Status button. You will see the Update Successful confirmation window. The spouse dependent status will change to correspond to the status of the J1 exchange visitor immediately. This chart summarizes the actions and timeframes available in order for you to correct the status of the J2 spouse dependent separately from the J1. For example, if the J2 is in inactive status and you want to correct it to active, the chart tells you that you can do it at any time using the correct SEVIS status link as long as the status of the J1 is active. Or, let's say you invalidated the J2 when you were informed they would not accompany the J1. Later, after the J1 started their program, they informed you that the J2 is ready to come to the United States. The chart tells you that you can correct the J2's status from invalid to active with no time limit using the correct SEVIS status link. Thank you for watching. For more information and other training videos, visit the j1visa.state.gov website.